it's 2024, and if you didn't realise, Mercedes still do make a camper van. Yes, it's called the Marco Polo. It sleeps up to 4, it has a complete kitchen in it, and yes, I might even sleep in it tonight here in Scotland. So join me on this walk-around tour of the Marco Polo. So the Marco Polo has been around in the kind of Mercedes lineup for a few years now. It was kind of announced around about 2015, but now in 2024, it's got the latest additions that you'd typically find on many Mercedes that I've covered on my channel. So notice here all these kind of stars on the front. I'm not going to count them, but there's absolutely tons of them just to remind you what you're driving. Massive Mercedes logo in the middle. Of course, there's the traditional one on the bonnet there. And look even closely here, there's even Mercedes logos in the actual bumper channeling the air this way, just to keep it as aerodynamic as possible, just like all modern cars today. This car also has multi-beam LED as well, so this is where the lights can adjust and adapt automatically at night time, although I do have a separate video on that functionality, but good to see new light design on here as well. Now looking on the side, as this is the new model, I don't notice many changes on the side. You do see some at the back, which I'll show you in a second. But before we go there, I just want to show you there's a new key. So for those of you who've seen Mercedes models, or if you have one yourself, you'll know that I'd be familiar with this key. Although there's an additional button on it, and if you hold this, it will open the door, just like that. Of course, all electric as standard. I should point out that the door is actually on the right-hand side. So this is how Marco Polos are, whether you have left-hand drive or right-hand drive. The one I have here is left-hand drive, just because I guess it's like a pre-production car. But we'll head to the back and check out a few changes that I've noticed at the rear. Now, a couple of very quick things at the rear. This bit here, Mercedes-Benz written all the way across. I don't recall seeing that on the previous ones. I have covered the Marco Polo previously. I don't remember this bit kind of sticking out here. So it might be part of AMG line that's kind of aiding that sporty look. So one thing I wanted to touch on is, of course, the car's dimensions. It is quite a big car. It's over 5 meters long. However, one thing that is quite good is that the height is under 1.99 meters, meaning it will fit in most car parks. So you could daily this car if you wanted to. It just means you're already kitted out, ready with a kitchen and sleeping arrangements for up to 4 people should you want a weekend getaway. So kind of ticks quite a few boxes. One thing I want to touch on here, if you open the boot, of course it's all electric, which is quite nice, but you could have a problem. If someone's parked here, that will hit their car. But Mercedes have thought of that, because if I close that back up, they do have a split folding rear door, or rear window should I say. So when that's fully closed, you can open it just like that. They think of everything, don't they? Cool. Let's have a look at the inside on this walk-around tour. Now guys, for this next section, I want to do something slightly different. So I'm just going to grab the camera and just literally walk around, almost kind of like a walk-around tour, just because there's so many like different sections and storage areas and leisure stuff in the Marco Polo. So I'm going to cover all of that, and then we'll go through the multimedia system and of course the drive. Then of course there is the sleeping in it tonight, and no, I haven't forgotten. I think I might take top bunk. But guys, also as well, if you're loving the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Right, walk around tour. So then guys, what I think we'll do, we'll start at the back of the car and then we'll work our way forward to the full kitchen over there. But yeah, we'll start at the back first. So, first things first, over here, there is an optional accessory where you can actually add a shower. Yes, a shower. You could actually shower in a Marco Polo. Suction cup goes on here and then you can literally have a shower in the back. Now, I should add, this would be ambient water temperature, so I'll leave that up to the imagination, depending on how cold it is of where you're staying. But you could have a shower, or you could use it to rinse off like wellies or things like that. So yeah, pretty good. There's actually an onboard water tank as well, which is 38 litres. And of course, on the left-hand side here is where you can see the electrical hookup. So above that, we have a couple of extra storage areas. So in here, you could put loads of things in here, but underneath is actually where the gas goes. So yes, of course, over here there is the kitchen, which again we will get onto, but this is where your gas bottle goes. So if I take this out, you'll notice in here that is where the gas bottle goes. One thing to add actually from a safety point of view, make sure it is actually switched off when you're driving, which I have done. So yeah, he just goes back in there and then close, and I should add there's a little bit of storage up in there as well. Now this thing here is actually the kind of mattress topper. So yeah, it depends if I'm actually going to be like sleeping upstairs or downstairs, but I've already hinted I'm going to sleep upstairs. Well, you would as well, wouldn't you? But yeah, of course you can sleep down here. Again, we'll show you how to do that using this in a minute. But yeah, mattress topper there. And then one handy thing underneath this thing right here is actually almost like a kind of windscreen protector. So it can actually black out all the windows in the windscreen just to give you as much privacy at night time, because the last thing you want is to, I don't know, have to get up in the middle of the night or something and then people will see you. So it kind of just blankets everything around so no one can see you on the inside. So that's a pretty good, neat addition. Now under here, there is also a little bit of underfloor storage space, and I can see in this one, there's the table and chairs. Okay, so that's the back. What about everything else? Well, for everything else, we'll need to go around to the side. Now there are a few ways of actually opening the door. You can pull it like that. You can also do it on the key, and there's also a button on the inside for the driver and front passenger so they can control it as well. And there's also a button just here. So yeah, loads of different ways of doing it. So let's continue the tour in here. So before we get onto the kitchen elements, let's take a look at the final two cupboards at the back. So in here, little place to actually hang things up, because there is a place you can actually hang clothes. And of course there is a mirror as well. And the final thing is literally just behind me. So up here we have a little bit of storage in there. Oh look, we've got some towels. But yeah, you could use that for bedding or anything like that if I push it up hard enough. But yeah, bedding, that sort of thing. Which reminds me, there is also some storage under here as well. Oh look, 2 pillows. So the bit that you've all been waiting for, the kitchen elements. So let's have a look here. So let's start on the left one first. So this one is a fridge or freezer, because it can go down to about -15, -18 degrees, all controlled at the front. They've even put drinks in there for me as well. How kind. I don't think I'm going to drink that all, but thanks for the gesture. Next one are the burners. So yes, of course, there's that gas bottle in the back and 2 gas burners here. Of course, the gas bottle is in the very back. There's actually a gas kind of shut-off safety valve in addition to the kind of regulator at the back, just under here behind this table. And yes, I'll go through that in a second. But yeah, burners there. And then the final one is a new and improved sink. So yeah, slightly different on that one. Oh, and there is a blind for virtually every window in the kind of kitchen area. So, blind there, blind there. There's one on the door as well. There's another one there and another one in the back. Of course, the ones for the front are slightly different. But yeah, all round, so much privacy considering you're surrounded by glass. Even the window here for cooking. So yeah, a couple of facts. There's a 38-litre tank for fresh water, so that was the water intake on the side. 40-litre grey water, so that's all the waste that goes in there. And of course the electrical hookup on the side next to it. And of course there are various different drains and things where you can drain the water safely and sensibly. So then we have all of the storage underneath the kitchen top. And oh my goodness, all these things in here. Wait, hang on. How did these not... Oh, look at that. They're magnetised. They've got magnets on the bottom of them so they don't like roll around. I was going to say, because the drive here was so bumpy, and well, I don't know if any of you have driven in Scotland before, but the roads like going in between, like they're literally country roads, like really, really small, 60 miles an hour. Well, up to anyway. But yeah, I did not know any of this glass was in the back. Well, if that's testament to how safe it is in the back. I mean, those roads are really, really bumpy, so nothing's damaged yet. But yeah, storage in there. This one was the cutlery drawer before. Yep, so that's exactly the same. Huge storage area in here. And of course then over on the right hand side, what was like a large deep one there for anything else you might need for the kitchen. And of course there is the table. So the table comes out just like this, and you slide it along here, and then you lift it up like this, and there is a catch underneath. And now we have a table, so you can literally just sit in the middle here and move it forward and backwards wherever you want it to be. They really have thought about everything with this. I really, really want to eat dinner in here tonight. It's so cool. The 2 front seats can also swivel round too, known as the captain's chair. So all 4 of you can actually eat round the table. There's an additional lever under the front seats to do this. Cool. Right, next up is the upstairs bunk, which I know if there are any kids watching, they're going to want to see this bit. Now, currently, the way this is set up right now is that you can actually stand up in here. So, yeah, this is literally me standing up in the Marco Polo. So, one good thing, and certainly I have done camping before, I hate it when you go away in like a tent or something, like a 1 or 2 man tent, and you can't stand up. You can actually stand up in here. Now, obviously, if you bring this down for the bed, then you won't be able to, but I'll show you how to do it here. Just unhook these things just here. And there's another on this side. And then the whole thing comes down like this. Now, how cool does this look? Now, I have actually spent the night in a Marco Polo before, but this is actually before I did YouTube or anything. And I did stay in a campsite with one, but yeah, look, they've even got their own reading lights. How cool is that? Another one here. I mean, come on, this does look like really, really cool. Another thing as well, USB-C and USB, so you can charge your phones at night time while you sleep. In fact, I'm going to say this is different here. This is definitely different. This wasn't here before. So this is like a vent, so you can see out, but people can't really see in. To a degree anyway. But you might not want to sleep upstairs, so I get that. Maybe you want to sleep down here. And yes, I know it's technically a 4-seater or 4-man and it would be quite a squeeze, but technically it can sleep 4 people. So technically, maybe 2 comfortably, 4 at a push. But if you want to fold this into a bed, all you do is put your hand in there, lift up with that one, and then pull the whole thing towards you like that. And then there are buttons here to fold it down. Oh, and before I do that, I just realised you've got to take the headrests off. So the headrests are literally these here, because you don't want to be laying on these when you sleep. And handily, again, Mercedes-Benz have thought of this. You can put these underneath at the back, in there, like that. Again, they think of everything. So continuing to fold these seats down. So now that's completely done, let me show you what it looks like. So yes, this is the flat bed, and notice I said flat. Basically, normally the seats, well, in fact, let me show you the front. Normally seats look a bit like this. See, this bit's kind of like sticking out slightly to kind of keep you supported. That is the same for the back seats, but these actually have air kind of bags in them. Not air bags for like crash protection, but like just bags of air. So when you fold the seats down, that's what the other buttons are for. It actually removes the air out of them to make it as kind of flat as possible. The last thing you want to do when you're sleeping at night time is sleep on, well, a seat that looks like that, because that'll look really, really uncomfortable. But yeah, you can sleep down here now. Then if you want to put it back, just reverse the process. So bring that forward slightly and then bring these up like this. And then next thing you do, lift the lever up and push the whole row backwards and just lock it into place by pulling. There we go. Easy as that. And of course then, if you need the headrest in, put the headrest in. And then finally for the next section is the multimedia system and of course the drive and the overnight sleep. Now with all the leisure stuff out of the way with the stuff at the back, now we've got the front. And well, I certainly have actually, believe it or not, driven a couple of van type cars out there, and this is no van. Technically it is a V-Class, but up front you have the same sort of tech that you would find in all of Mercedes-Benz passenger cars, which is probably one of the reasons why Mercedes-Benz actually sell it through their passenger car lineup, because it literally is just a normal car up front. It's just great. You've got these awesome dual widescreen displays here, which has been around for a very, very long time in Mercedes now. It just looks amazing. I've got a very similar setup in my own daily car, sadly not this big and sadly not with any of this stuff as well, but yeah, this has MBUX NTG7, so it's one of the latest generations of MBUX, the multimedia system, which we'll touch on in a minute. In terms of everything else, we'll do a little walkthrough guide of all the buttons we see here. Over here we have handle, heated seats, loads of buttons here for mirrors and windows just like normal, then traditional kind of light layout there, so you can adjust your lights, turn them on, leave them in auto, which most people do. There's a parking brake release down there as well. Then we come onto the steering wheel. Now the steering wheel does house touch buttons, so they're not physical buttons. So Only thing I can suggest is obviously try it out for yourself, see how you get on. Just swipe up and down very lightly to control what you want to control. And there's loads of different things you can do on here, from making your sat-nav full screen over here and adjusting all sorts of things. So there's loads of things you can do on this. In fact, I've made a walkthrough guide on how to do this, so have a look in the description down below if you want to see how you can customize this. Then we move on to the stalks. So the stalks are your indicators and wipers on the left, and of course gears on the right. Of course, if it's right-hand drive, everything will be over there. Now moving to the centre here, climate control are all physical buttons. So no, they are not touch. You can actually control them using touch if you want to. But yeah, they are all physical buttons along here. And one huge big thing that a few of you might be waiting for me to say, I did check out the specification of this, and I know that Marco Polos didn't always have this as standard. But now the electric heater is standard. Brilliant, because the UK weather, well, I mean, it's nice today of all days. Usually it rains when I film a car review or something like that. But yeah, it does get quite cold and wet and just depressing in the UK sometimes. And I know that Marco Polos didn't always have a heater, and sometimes you had to spec it as an option. But no, as of this new model of Marco Polo, they are now standard, and it's on that button right there. And you can control it using a few extra things, which I'll get onto in a second. Very quickly finishing just down here, there is a touchpad. So yes, Mercedes-Benz have opted to put a touchpad in this one, even though they have removed it on other models. But anyway, conversation for another day. But yeah, there is a touchpad here, so you can control the screen using touchscreen or touchpad like that. And then this array of buttons here, this one here is literally just to do the door, so you can open and close it. One of the many ways you can do it, I mentioned earlier. And all the buttons down here allow you to control different things on here. Shortcuts for the multimedia system, which brings us neatly onto just that. So as I briefly mentioned, this multimedia system is called MBUX, and it's MBUX NTG7, or version 2 to be precise. And yeah, I have this same multimedia system in my car, and it's very, very good. There's loads of standard things included with the Marco Polo, as I mentioned with the specification earlier. So pretty much everything you've ever had on Mercedes is probably going to be on here in terms of spec and gadgets and things like that. But with one addition, Marco Polo, just here. There is a new menu icon in here, which, if we go in here, has everything you could possibly need for the Marco Polo experience, which there's living, there's light, supply, vehicle settings. So I think we'll go through this bit first, and then we'll go through the other bits in the multimedia system. So no, if you're watching this, you will have never seen this before, because this is a brand new thing. So let's go through each one. So overview just has an overview of everything that you might need to know, but we'll go through everything in a bit of detail. So living. Now living in here has everything from the kind of Marco Polo leisure experience, so you don't have to have the engine or the ignition on to play music. You can turn on Bluetooth, connect your phone via that way just to play music for the living area, and then choose where the music comes out. So they've really thought about that bit as well. Then you come on to heating. So heating on here is where you can actually control the overnight heater, so to speak. Probably best, I'd probably say, to have it plugged in. Otherwise you'll get through your battery pretty quickly. That's the auxiliary battery, which we saw on the overview just up here. So you can even do a time control as well. So say you're going to go for like a lovely leisurely walk in the mountains of Scotland, you can have it come on and set that temperature to what you want it to be, ready for when you get back. And then nighttime reduction, I guess, is probably just to stop it from getting too cold. You can get it to kick in like at a certain temperature. So again, it's like central heating at home almost. Then you have the pop-up roof, so this is done with the ignition on kind of position 2, so you can control that all from here. Then we come onto the fridge, so you can control the fridge and or freezer, because it can go down to that really cold temperature, around about -15, -18 degrees. And then we come on to lights. Here you can turn on all the lights, you can have the ambient lighting on or off, you've got the main light, and then even lighting schemes, so you can have like just the normal lights here, or cooking, or kind of like a living experience, because there's even underfloor lighting as well, which we will see later when the sun goes down. After this, there's supply. So this is the auxiliary battery, which I mentioned earlier, you can see on overview, and then fresh water. So that's that fresh water tank, and then the grey water. So anything that goes down the plug hole, basically. And then after that is vehicle. Now, I was told about this. This thing here called camping switch is pretty cool, actually. So if I go on to camping switch, can you imagine, say you're on a campsite and it's pitch black and everyone else is asleep around you, and you go to unlock your car. What do cars do when you unlock them in night? The indicators flash, Sometimes you might get a toot of the horn depending on the car manufacturer, and all the lights come on. So it'll either wake up people who are maybe sleeping here or in a tent or right next to you, like on the next picture or something. You can turn off those things, so when you're camping, none of that happens. Again, they think of all of this. And then finally, there is another cool thing called leveling. Now this is only on cars that have Airmatic. So Airmatic is Mercedes-Benz's air suspension. And what's really cool with this, say you park on something that's not quite level. What you can do with this is you fulfill all these requirements on the side here, and then you hold the button and the suspension will then level off and get the wheels so that you're sleeping dead straight. That's a pretty cool feature. Obviously, if you don't have Airmatic, then you can't use that feature, but then you'd probably be noting that before you arrive at your pitch and make sure you've got the car kind of turned the right way around so that you don't have that issue. But if you do have it, just press the button and it'll sort itself out. And yes, you can even see all of that in action on the screen there as well. You know what the cool thing is as well? You can do all of that via the app. Annoyingly, there is a separate app for all of this stuff. So for those of you who have Mercedes at the moment, there is an app called Mercedes Me that I think is actually linked on this, yes, linked here just like this. So you can unlock and lock the car, you can locate it on the map and do all sorts of really cool things, usually free for at least a few years when you buy a brand new one, and then chargeable after that. But annoyingly, there is a separate app for all the Marco Polo stuff. It's a shame it's not like completely integrated in one app, although I can understand why, because obviously it's Mercedes-Benz V-Class and then kitted out with Westphalia, and I presume they probably have their own interface. It works over Bluetooth, but yeah, lets you do all sorts of things. This bit on here, but you can do it on here instead. So the range is probably like 10-15 meters. So when you're outside the car, maybe, I don't know, you might have an awning or something and you can do everything from the phone. For the keen eye viewer, you may have noticed this. Now, I have never seen this in a Mercedes before. Annoyingly, it could be one of those things where it's not available in the UK, but I have been using that. Well, first of all, I tried it with just the mirror function, but then I tried this camera system and it's actually really, really good. The refresh rate's must be like above 60 or something like that, because it's like really, really smooth. This is a camera for the back and then you can turn it off. Oh, hello. And then the camera goes on. Just because visibility could be reduced slightly at the back. But yeah, a digital rearview mirror. As I said, I've not seen that on the Mercedes before. That's pretty cool. I wonder if that is coming to the UK. I haven't seen that written anywhere, but hey, let's fingers crossed it is. So what about everything else? Well, everything else is very similar to a lot of content I code on my channel. So I've got a lot of Mercedes-Benz content on there. So in here you have the MBUX navigation, and of course it has new things like satellite view. And really easy, all you do is just type in up here where to, type in where you want to go, and it's super easy to use. If you don't want to press buttons, you can also talk to it as well. So there is also a baked-in voice assistant, so you can literally summon it by saying, "Hey Mercedes,
how can I help?
Navigate to such and such down the road." But I'm just going to press the back button because that made no sense. But yeah, you can give it commands, ask it the weather, and do all sorts of things. So yeah, pretty cool on that one. And then after this you have radio and media, but of course if you don't want to use any of that, there is also Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard, all built in and wireless as well. So all round, really, really good. There's loads of cool things you can do on here and loads of additional things under the Marco Polo kind of controls on there. So I think the next thing to do really is to take it for a drive. But to do that first, we need to put the roof back down because I'm not going to get very far with the roof up. So to do this, it needs to be on ignition 2. So that's ignition 1, ignition 2, and then we can control it over here on the main screen. And this is done via the Marco Polo interface. And then we need, where is he? Pop-up roof. And then we're going to retract it. And then here it just makes sure, for obvious reasons, that there's no one upstairs, which obviously there isn't. That'd be a bit weird if there was, because I'm filming on my own. But anyway, let's get this roof down. Safety first, seat belts. Oh, geez, making sure I'm tucked in right. So, foot and brake pedal, engine on, into drive, and away we go. I should probably check to make sure I've not left anything behind. No, I'm sure it's good. Right, away we go. So is this a bit weird for you guys, me driving a left-hand drive car? Because I know I've read a few of your comments where you say that I always drive the steering wheel on the wrong side. And I do reply to them, but now I'm on the correct side. So what's it like to drive? Well, I would describe it as literally just like a V-Class, but just with a few extra kind of added elements of heaviness, because obviously don't forget this is going to be quite a heavy car. It's got all this stuff in the back. But that diesel engine really does pick up quite a bit of power when you put your foot down. I'm sure we'll be able to try... Oh, this wasn't planned, but there's actual national speed limit here, so let's give it a go. Now see, it's not going to be the quickest car around, but it will pick up the pace pretty quickly. Now that beeping you're hearing, like that one there, is a thing that's coming out in a lot of cars at the moment. It's not actually on my car personally, but it's on a lot of cars that I'm test driving, and it's like a speed assist thing. And as you rightly saw, we've literally just gone to national speed limit, and yet the sat-nav on here is saying it's 40, and it thinks I'm speeding. I'm not, so I'm going to turn that off. It's a very quick, easy way to turn that off in this car. But yeah, it's a regulatory thing that's coming out. I'll probably do a video on it somewhere, but yeah, in Mercedes it's very easy to turn off, just literally top left of the screen, or top right if it's the other way around with the steering wheel. But yeah, it picks up the pace pretty quickly. That's because in the UK, it's going to be sold as a V300D, which is a 2-litre and 237 horsepower. It can easily pull the amount of weight that's behind here, especially if you kit this out with all your things you're potentially going to be using on a weekend away. But yeah, the cool thing with this is that you could daily this car, because don't forget, there are people like around, certainly in the UK and London, who use V-Classes. I mean, I was literally driven here in a V-Class from the airport. They're just an all-round good, practical car to move people around. It's a very premium, don't want to use the word taxi because that's the wrong word, but they're just a very good premium car with loads of space and loads of legroom. Coupling that with Westphalia's conversion kit that they've done in the back just adds this massive premium feel to it. There is one negative though, and it is a big negative. It's the price. £88,420 it starts from in the UK. That's a lot of money, but Mercedes have structured it in a way so that you basically get everything. So there's very few things you need to add to it after that. There's, as I mentioned with the trims earlier, there's a difference between Sport and AMG line. Arguably, I don't think that many people are even going to notice, and you might actually prefer having the smaller wheel sizes, the softer kind of setup when you are potentially using it to go off-road onto the field, onto like a pitch or something. So going for the standard one probably would be better. And hey, if you're watching this in, you know, months or years to come, you might even find like a demonstrator for sale or approved used. But yeah, the amount of tech and stuff that's in here is just so cool. It literally makes me want to just kind of stay here for a bit and have a weekend or even a week away, because it's just so cool. Talk about that van life. And I've not even stayed in it. We've got that to come yet. That's where I'm driving now. How long have I got? I've got about 45 minutes from here. Okay. Well, obviously we'll skip ahead. We won't bore you guys with that bit. We'll skip ahead to the bit where I set up my campsite. And you think I'm actually joking? No, I'm actually staying in this Marco Polo tonight. The sun has set, or is about to set anyway, and it's definitely getting a lot colder. So I think first things first is we need to put this heating on, and yeah, try that out. Now this should be as simple as going on to here, just log that back in. A toasty 21 degrees, that will work absolutely fine. I'm sure if it gets too hot then I can just turn it down, but yeah, well, let's set the bed up. You can hear the heating coming on now. Okay, well, I think we are ready. All the blinds are down here, apart from that bit, but I don't need to worry about that bit. Heating's on, can feel it nice and warm. So yeah, all we've got to do now is get up here. Yeah. And yeah, got to make my bed. I'll let you know how I get on. Well, good morning guys. Had a wonderful sleep last night. I slept like a log. I need to keep the noise down slightly because I'm not sure if there's any other people in their Marco Polos here currently, so need to keep the noise down. I have a confession to make though. I didn't use the outdoor shower for obvious reasons. It's ambient water temperature. It was like 7 degrees outside now, so yeah, that'll be quite cold. So I did use the hotel's facilities here, but yeah, slept like a log in here. I had the heating set to I think it was 21 last night or something, but yeah, I turned it down in the end because that was too toasty. I put it to like 19, so yeah, slept like a log. So guys, there we go. That is the Marco Polo experience. Now, it kind of got me thinking staying this last night. I know that this car is, well, in my mind, very, very expensive. But having said that, it does combine the best of both worlds. You know, you kind of got all the camping stuff in the back, but you can effectively daily this car, as I mentioned yesterday when I was going through the whole car. So it is almost like two cars in one, because there are some camper vans that people fit and kind of upgrade and do all sorts of things, you know, in like transporters and that sort of thing, and even larger variants as well that take it over that 2 metre threshold, whereas this is 1.99 metres, meaning it will fit in the car parks and you could daily it. But yeah, still is quite expensive, but it has so many gadgets in it and just everything to complete that glamping experience. It really is glamping. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Huge shout out to Mercedes for organising this event, because it takes a lot of organisation to do this sort of thing. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. And likewise guys, if you have any more suggestions for future content you'd like me to do, let me know also in the comment section. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, see you then.